Hello, today I'm going to talk about a movie I have seen after a long time of wanting to see it. It's Requiem for a Dream. Kind of old movie, but I haven't seen it during my emo time, so right now I saw it and I have to say it was very impacting, very nice movie with such a depth and social critique. And it's a very dark movie, so I don't recommend to watch it when you're like in a more unstable moment of your life. But it's a very interesting cinematographic experience. Like it's about drugs, or more accurately about addiction, and it's showing us the very nicely the difference between the addiction in the one hand in a social context of like partying and ludic use of the drugs for fun, and on the other hand we have like the medical use of drugs, and it's a nice contrast we can see in this movie. For the By the way, I'm going to do spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, this is like going to spoiler. Well, so we can see the son, which is like on the ludic spectrum of drug use, and the mother who is like using the amphetamines or the stimulants for the uh, diet purpose, like to lose some weight. And we can see how in the both of these contexts, like it can lead to very terrible results and consequences. And I really like the visual aspect of the movie. Like the visual depiction of this movie is very representative of the drugs it's treating. Like this amphetaminergic vibe is very present in the visual depictions of the movie, and I think it's playing very well with some edgy symptoms of anxiety and paranoia, which are coming up in certain threshold of these states of consciousness, which are produced by these substances like stimulants or empathogens like MDMA. And there is very interestingly, it's depicted that the son is a drug addict, a junkie, and he is hooked on several substances and have no social background. He's kind of in the void of meaning, and in his meaningless void there is only one center of gravity, which is like the experience of drugs. And there's also a love story with his girlfriend, but I think all this love story oscillates not it's not that the relation oscillates around the love between these two, but the oscillation occurs around the drug. So the two people who are in love oscillates around the drugs. So I think it's very nice depiction that in this case the love for the drugs was even stronger than the love they were experiencing. And we can really see how shallowly uh, superficial this love was. But it was not superficial from their perspective, from the perspective of the protagonist. It was like the deepest they could experience. But when the girl told the protagonist that he makes her feel like a person. Wow, that's such a fucking strong thing to say. That was like the most beautiful thing for her to hear from someone, is that he made her feel like a person, like a person. It's really, if we think about it, it should be like very obvious and normal to feel like a person because as a human beings, but no, for her it was like the biggest joy or the best experience of worth she was experiencing. So we see a huge void in which the main characters encounters themselves, and this void is pronounced by this consumerist society, which is like completely meaningless. And yeah, I think it's, even this movie is a little bit old, I think it still reflects very nicely the drug consume and the majority drug consumption in the society we are having right now. And it's like this void because people don't really like their work, their social situation, and it's kind of escape mechanism to enjoy and to go to these worlds of the substances and drugs and forget for a moment of the how shitty their life is. So it's like a very superficial coping mechanism to face the reality and not commit suicide or to get in a depressed state. So yeah, we can see it right now also, and I have to separate, because there is one type of drugs which are substances, psychoactive substances, which doesn't qualify in this analysis of this movie, and they are like the psychedelic substances. They are biologically and biochemically very different from the depressants and the uppers, which both like hijack the addiction system, which is like the nucleus accumbens and the dopaminergic system. So this movie represents these addictive substances more than psychedelics. It's not very like speaking about psychedelic drugs only about like stimulant drugs like amphetamines, cocaine, and then the depressors like alcohol or like heroin, and from the uppers also like methamphetamine. And I think there is a big difference, which is like this group of the drugs which activated the dopaminergic system and the recompense circuit of the brain, and the psychedelics which act on the serotonergic system. So the drug problem is like really beautifully depicted in this movie. And on the other hand, we can see the mother, who is like this elderly woman with deceased husband, who is like utterly lonely, and she's like hooked on television, and she has like all this projection of the success and of the life and what life can bring, is basically the television. And she's like, one day she got a call that she's going to be on the television, and she's getting so hyped of it. It's like she has basically no other meaning of her life than watching the television. Like, she has a son, the protagonist, but their relation is very they tell they love each other, but I don't know, like the love seems like it's like a soulless relation. It feels like there is something like blunt and cold in that relation, and they just like don't connect and intertwine in a very fundamental level, and therefore I think there's like this emptiness. So when they say they love each other, they're like in two bubbles which communicate together, but like the systems of these bubbles don't interact between themselves. So a complete radical isolation of the experience of the individual in this capitalistic individualistic society, which we can see also nowadays, not only in the days when the movie was made. So I think very accurate movie still these days. And the mother was really like only hoping, because the only purpose for her was to be in a television, like to be seen, to be acknowledged by another human beings to just to be acknowledged, just so she can share her experience of what she once used to like with someone, which she doesn't even feel that anymore. It's right now in her moment of her life, it's just a life and just memories of some past which used to be good, but sorry, some past which used to be good, and what happened was that it's just not the reality anymore. So she's like dreaming in this dreamy state when she was young and had this red dress and she was with his husband and she had like all these hopes about her son. But you know, deep there, she really knows that her son is a drug addict and junkie. She knows that, but she kind of lies to herself, convincing herself that the son is like a successful businessman and she's like wanting to share it with all the world. That's very sad because we can see how like only the persona, which is like the image or the projection of the human is what matters. It's like a complete emptiness of the self. It's like self doesn't exist anymore. It's only the persona, the projection of the perfect life or the ideal life or some life which we want to have, which plays a role. But underneath there is nothing. The self is completely drained by all its resources of subsistence and existence. And wow, it's really sad. And we can see that she goes to the doctor, the medical system, like super hostile environment. Everything is like just these tables and algorithms which just like do what is written in the algorithm, not really care about the context of this woman, why she want to take the pill. But they just prescribe her amphetamines, which was very common for dieting pills back then in the 90s, 80s. But nowadays I think the amphetamine issue is still big from the prescription of the psychiatrist especially. But now it's more for like ADHD or the attention and hyperactivity spectrum abnormalities. So yeah, the issue is still there that we are getting these strong drugs which like people who are considered drug addicts are getting hooked on them, and these drugs are being prescribed very liberally to people without really looking exactly and analyzing their context. So in this overprescription, like the lady gets like in a very harsh state, like she's losing weight, but it's starting to trigger paranoia, psychotic episodes, because you know, like there is a certain threshold in the amphetamines which like can trigger the psychotic episodes, and it's not very rare. It's kind of common effect. So in the people who are mentally more fragile or more prone to psychotic episodes and schizotypic personalities, this is like a common issue, and she was not informed by this fact, and she's thinking she's getting crazy, and eventually she became like so hooked and so obsessed on this cycle and retroalimentation of being in television that she ends up hospitalized in a psychiatric hospital. There nobody cares about her deeply, just a symptomatic treatment. Very alienated and dehumanizing medical experience depicted in this movie. And I don't know, like I'm medical student in Spain, and I have to tell, like Spanish medicine is more like involved with the patients, and it's not that hardcore that is depicted in this movie. So hopefully it's like getting better, but I don't know. I think in many countries it's still this kind of coldness of treatment from the doctor to the patient, because there are some limitations like time and resources, and just it's not very convenient in the current system to individualize the cases of patients, which I think it's important if you really want to help the individual and cure the problem, and not just like discharge this as like, wow, this is a crazy lady, and we should just like give her some electroshocks. Very very sad story, which ends up actually in a tragedy in all the three cases of the three person we are seeing. And the protagonist, the boy, is getting his arm amputated, and his girlfriend, the protagonist, also she eventually gets so hooked on the heroin that she's starting to prostitute herself and for the drug. And I think it's a very very sad situation, because like first of all it was him who, they are still in love, but we can see how like their passion and their love is below the importance of the drug, because it's him who convinces her to sleep with this guy she hates only to get money. And once she enters the dynamics, she is kind of selling one of the most sacred things in a human life, which is our sexuality. And it's very sad how she's interchanging her sexuality and her bodily integrity for the drug. I think it is a very car accurate situation, and I think many prostitutes and sex workers are in these dynamics, in this situation, and it's sort of slavery. It's like a dopaminergic slavery in which the person is addicted and needs the substance and will do everything eventually to get the substance. And terribly sad situation. And seems like these substances are described as a bandage for the social emptiness. And how low can a human fall in this society, in a society in which community doesn't even exist, and the person can be just like falling, and nobody is catching the person. The person is just hitting the ground, and the ground is like this terribly hard floor of the lowest aspects of the system, which are like prison or psychiatric hospitalization. And I think when this person who is like in the context of addiction touches the prison and the psychiatric hospital, I think there is very little help which is offered to them, and mostly they are not rehabilitated. So it's a sad reality of our times, and I think this movie really beautifully depicts it, and how lost can an individual be in this system of complexity and alienation of individuals, and how helpless we can become. So yeah, I hope you like this video, and I'm grateful to share it with you. And I really recommend to rewatch the movie if you've seen it, if you were younger. I think it's a very very nice movie and very thought provoking movie, especially visually. It really has this effect of emergence, so it's really like allows one to emerge in this state of being the drug addict or being the protagonist who is like in this bottom of the society. And wow, it's a very powerful movie. So I recommend watching it in like the most more stable moment of your life, but still I recommend to watch it. It's really really beautiful. See you.